So there you have it. In today's video, we are going to talk about study. Study is, in fact, a very good thing because it helps to keep your brain elastic, plastic, so that you prevent to get Alzheimer or Parkinson or any other kind of degenerative disease. Also, what is very important, you keep developing yourself and you remain a particular kind of mental acuity, and that means that your IQ, which depending on how you have been educated as a child and how you have been living and so on, usually is diminishing after 50, 55, and your IQ can drop 20, 30 points. So that's a lot, right? And an average adult my age, over 60, can have an IQ which maybe before was 120 or 140, and then all of a sudden find himself at 120 or at 100. And that is then all of a sudden very average. Through study, through physical practice and so on, you can maintain the quality of your mental acuity and your presence and your understanding. And this is basically what this video is about. Let me tell you a little bit about my story at this point in my life. I'm now struggling a bit. My PhD has been accepted, and at this moment my synopsis has been accepted. Let's say it like that, not my PhD. And my synopsis has been accepted, and now I'm looking for subsidizement and sponsoring for this program. And there is, in the European Union, there is a lot of sponsoring. The thing is, this is not a tech company necessarily, although it could become a tech company if it becomes big enough. It requires tech, that's for sure. It is innovative in the sense that nobody else does this. At the same time, it is difficult to, find the right kind of subsidizement, because almost everybody is focused on chemistry, pharmacy, industry, IT, and so on and so on. Actual innovation of the system doesn't really get promoted. So it is very difficult to find the right way. So looking for myself is a difficult thing. I've been looking now for about a week since I noticed about these kind of things, and I need to look at a lot more things before I actually figure it out. The question is though, should I try to figure it out myself, or should I ask an office to do it for me so that I can leave it out of hand, and then of course they get a share of this. In the end, when everything is being done and the financing has been regulated, the research project can go ahead, and in the longer term, the research project will be able to finance itself. It is just a startup thing. And for the startup thing, we need several things. We need to be able to pay the assistants. We need to pay the programs, the data programs, the storage. We need to pay a statistician to check if everything is done all right. We need to develop websites, questionnaires, and so on and so forth. So I might also have to hire somebody to help me with that. So that means that in general, I think it would be easy to spend in a month's time something like 25,000 euros, maybe more. So the amount of money that I have to ask for to be on the safe side, if I also want to be paid myself, is at least 30,000, 40,000. So what do you suggest that I do? Let me discuss a few subsidizements with you. I have been looking here in the Netherlands, where I'm living, of course, first to the websites, because they are all working together within the European Union, and it would be great to find something here locally that I can locally arrange things, easily go to office and so on. But it seems like it's going to be difficult because of the things that I said before. I have been looking at info at Zon NW, the Netherlands. Might be, I still have to investigate that further. I've been looking at Health Holland. Health Holland is a Kickstarter promotion. You have to pay everything back though, and it is international, so it has to has to be an international project. That is not a problem because I'm going to work together with people in Romania, in Germany, in Portugal, Mexico, Spain, Canada. All these kind of places are going to be involved one way or the other. So that would be great. USA, possibly. We'll have to see about that. Then they also have a PPS program. Forgot what it means, so I will tell you later. It has you have to have at least 3 partners, but I can't use it because besides that it has to be a cooperation between a company and a research organization, the requirement has to be minimum 1 million euros. So that means that maybe in a later stage I can do this, but not at the moment. At the moment, when I look further, there is the NIH in the United States, but I'm not a US citizen, so this is going to be difficult. Then there's Horizon Europe. They are both for health and disaster relief, so this is one candidate that I'm going to check out. And I just found also educationcan'twait.org, and that is an organization from UNICEF and the United Nations. And they're doing exactly what I'm looking for. They do holistic programs. They do mostly relief programs after the fact, and my project is for before the fact. So I have at least already contacted them to see if they're going to react on this, and that would be really very nice because I was always a fan of UNICEF and the United Nations. I'm a big fan of people working together. Currently, that seems to be a little bit of a difficulty. There are new developments, of course, with the BRICS and also in Africa and in Europe itself. I think Europe has to make a big step to become more unified because the world is gradually clustering in knowledge hubs, and Europe has to be its own knowledge hub, of course. But it should also not isolate itself. It should become a magnet for international connections. And that will be really great because we're connected with a lot of different kind of areas in the world to our history, but also because of interracial marriages. We have been marrying into all kind of cultures all over the world. We are a multicultural society, whatever the right-wing people would like to say about it. And we have something to gain because there's 87 million people continuously at risk for disaster here. And we have about 660 million people living here in Europe. So that is actually quite significant. That is more than a tenth, right? More than 10% is continuously under threat. And the way how the European Union people have reacted on refugees is not generally positive. They have in general been quite adversive, and even though a lot of refugees, they will leave after their local situation has improved, they're still not being treated very well because, in essence, white people are pretty much racist. All people all over the world are sort of racist. So if we would become refugees and we have to go to Africa, we have to go to the Arab world or to Russia to survive, I don't think we will be very welcome there too. So the program is based on the idea that we start here and try to build up a local understanding of what we can do to survive, and then that has to be extended to local situations in every part of the world. In South America, in Central America, in North America, the United States probably is going to be a refugee area considering how they're now developing, in Asia and anywhere else. So let's hope that this is going to work. I will keep you informed. So if you're lucky, you feel your joints cracking because you're opening yourself. So when you feel you have a good grip, try to make it more fluent, so that you really feel your movement is unified. It's a very good exercise also against rheumatic pains in your fingers. Make sure your feet remain parallel. You can go all the way back, that's even better. So you rotate all the way back. You can add this to your Wudang fitness classes. Okay, you already started. That's good. Let's get a little bit deeper into this subject of studying, because this PhD research, of course, keeps me busy. It doesn't keep me awake in the night, but it is definitely something that is taking a lot of effort, and it is very interesting to see what study does with you. It's not my first rodeo. I have been studying before a long time, many times, written several books, studying for that too, to make sure that I don't write nonsense. My first books probably had more nonsense than not, because it was pretty new agey, and gradually, by investigating things, you get more knowledgeable. It's a little bit of a monk's job, and I'm a monk, officially, of course. So in the perspective of this monkhood, it is very interesting to see how they're studying with books, and also how they're studying with other things like meditation or qigong or nourishment or fitness or anything like that that has to do with this profession in Chinese medicine. All these things, they are of a similar class, in the sense that they make a little bit, they make a lot of intensity in your perception of things, but book wisdom is just a matter of looking for facts, and it is draining you very slowly, while things like meditation, proper nourishment, and also proper exercise, they help you to become more healthy and more fit at the same time. On the other hand, to explain this to my students, I need theoretical study, and everybody, whatever you study, you always need theoretical study, and you have to, at a certain point, build an anchor in something and develop your knowledge on that basis. In Chinese culture, historically, they said, like, okay, the basis of all knowledge is very simple, but then you have to gradually build it up, and then you have to become something unique, and that unique, actually, they call human. That means that every human is an individual. Confucianism says, basically, as an individualist politic, you have to develop yourself from what in some other circles is called the demon state into the human state. That means that you're born as a demon, and through your education, through your development, you gradually turn into a human. And at the moment when you do that, you start noticing, at a certain point, you get further beyond other people. You know things that other people don't know. In the beginning, that is just fun. But there's people who you look up to, and they are being left behind you. There are people that look up to you, and they are more and more far away. People gossip about you, people lie about you, people frustrate you because they try to block you from making your progress, because they're jealous, or because they feel guilty about their own lack of capacity, or they steal from you because they hope to be better than you, and they borrow, and as a result of that, they get stuck somewhere. This is just the fate of dishonesty, of course. But in the moment when you're studying, you go deeper and deeper in your study, you start developing more and more insight, and you go further and further and further and further. When you practice alchemy, alchemy, then at a certain point you also get to the point where you start having such strong results that a lot of theoretical framework, they become obvious. Like, for instance, this book, I'm translating this. I recently gave a lecture on the Shandong Jing. These are actually the chapters in this book that are called Shandong Jing. Sorry, this is Shandong Jing. Yeah, this point, Shandong Jing. This is the department that discusses the Shandong Jing. The Shandong Jing, of course, is the Tao Tsang, but the editor of the Tao Tsang also composed this book. Is like this is the greatest hits. This is like the Julio Iglesias of the Tao Tsang, you can say. I don't know if you remember who was Julio Iglesias. He was a football player becoming singer, and I remember my mom always buy his records, and on every record there were like 8 songs, of which 6 were songs from other records and 2 new songs. So that would stimulate people always to buy more. This is a little bit similar because in some chapters you come across the same ideas as in other chapters. Like, for instance, now I'm doing a chapter on the stages of birth. I have been working before doing research on the stages of life and in the wilderness cycle, and I'm still working on that one actually, because this is relevant for my PhD research also, because once you have an idea about what to expect from life, it is more easy to adapt and to find the right kind of practice. And this is one of the things that I learned to transfer from book wisdom to actual wisdom because of also having done all the years. I started doing this kind of studies when I was about 11, and I am now over 60, and I am still developing myself, and I'm actually in a better state of health than I was when I was 11, because at that time I just came out of the hospital after many weeks being in bed and having burnt my leg and all kind of other things that happened to me in that year, which are all very, well, passing by on me because I'm a very superficial person. But at the moment when these kind of things happened, they left an imprint, of course, and I had to spend a lot of time at home, in bed, and nothing else to do but studying. So as soon as I start going to do exercises, and my health gradually improved, doctors all said like, no, that's not going to work. You're going to die at 40, 45 because of this and this situation with your kidneys. You're not going to survive for a long time. You might live a little bit longer if you go on an artificial kidney, but that's not an ideal situation too. Then, of course, in my late puberty, I did all the things that all other puberty people do, party, not in the right way. And I had to recover from that too. That took quite a lot of years. And I think it took me at least 20 years to recover and to get on to that path beyond my 40s. So I kept on recovering, and I'm still recovering after all this time. Making it more understandable that these theoretical frameworks that my teachers were teaching to me actually were right, and that they were something meaningful. And as a result of that, you have a confirmation which people who just read from a book don't have. And so this is also where your authority is being built on as a student. And at the moment when you, like in my case, I do a research about a combination of 3 different factors: meditation, fitness, exercise, that is, and nourishment, how that affects people and how to use that after a disaster happens to them, and how you can prevent to become a victim as a refugee. Then at that moment you can really say, yeah, this is only possible because of my experience. If I would have gone to this study 40 years ago, I would not have been able to come up with the idea, nor would I have come up with the results of the research in the same kind of fashion. Similar, like when I was still a painter, you spend a lot of time painting. If I now make a drawing, I still have a sort of routine in that. If I would make a painting, the same, but I would really need a lot of time to get back into it and to really become successful in painting again. Not that I ever was a successful seller of paintings, but I was a good painter. At least that's what I thought. But we all can have wrong thoughts about ourselves. We overestimate ourselves in many things over time. So, based on this story, I think, yeah, being a monk is a good thing. Making an oath to yourself, or a guarantee to yourself where you are going to guarantee that you are to yourself, where you guarantee to yourself to stay stuck into a particular kind of study, that is really great. And I think this is the major message of this story. Forward one more time. Can you see me? No.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Yes? Maybe we can summarize a little bit what this is all about, because at the moment when you're studying, you are accumulating knowledge. In Chinese, the word for knowledge and the word for wisdom is basically the same. True. At the moment when you acknowledge wisdom, you also accumulate experience in thinking, experiencing in reasoning, experiencing in gathering facts, and so on. So you learn a lot of skills in doing so. At the moment when you are practicing, your practice, especially in Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong and Daoyin and so on, meditation, this is like a laboratory where you are experimenting with yourself. At the moment when you're experimenting with yourself, you want to prove the theory. And you don't want to go for your feelings, because your feelings superficially are very easy to come up with all kinds of things. Things like auras, emotions, feelings, and so on. These are all falsifying instruments to make sure that you see only the externals of things, even though they feel very intense and very private and so on. But in fact, they are the outer manifestation as a result of frustrations, problems, and so on. At the moment when you go somewhat deeper inside your learning process, you understand that learning has two parts. The physical part, where your body has to be trained, because your body has its own memory. And then there's also the mental part that needs to be trained, because you need to develop a particular kind of understanding. That takes time. It takes really time. And these two things, they have to come together. And the whole point of learning is to bring these things together in a way that helps you to live longer and to live healthier and to live happier. If you're going to be materially successful, it is of no consequence. If you know how to manage these three things, and you can manage your health, and you can manage your happiness, and you can manage the fact that you're living longer time, then at that moment you have achieved everything that as a human being you can achieve. When you accumulate enough wisdom to be able to share that with other people, then of course that's the top, because then you're basically a parent. So a teacher and a parent is the same. That is also why in Chinese culture traditionally the teacher is seen as an extension of the family. The spiritual guide also, similar like that, saw itself always also in the West as an extension of the family. And that means that learning is essential. If you do not put time into learning, your life is always going to stagnate and always going to be the same. If you cannot learn to recognize your own weak spots, like always complaining, always trying to make up things, try to fantasize, try to make yourself better than you really are, try to undermine yourself by denying your qualities or anything like that, because you also have to be fair about what is your skills. You have to be modest, and you don't have to brag, but you can be fair about assessing where you are. Like for instance, I know for myself in my work, for a Westerner, I'm doing pretty good. In China itself, I know people who know more than me, and they are able to do more than me. But these are usually old style people. Modern school, no, not so much. Yeah, because they have all been spoiled and they feel entitled and so on because of their race or because of the education or the family, because China is a status oriented culture, just like the West. And in the West, you have the same problems. People feel entitled and so on and so on. They don't have the ability anymore to see things into a reasonable perspective. And as a result of that, they're also not helpful for the well being of society. And you can really see that the lack of self understanding, the lack of control over your own education, in spite of the fact that schools are very useful instruments, science is the most useful thing that we have to help people make sense of the world, besides particular spiritual theories. And in the end, it is always the individual and the family that are going to put it into the context of being human. And this is what is the most important part. The school is for your career, right? Science is a career move. Industry is a career move. AI is a career move. Anything is a career move. If it is a wise move, if it's a moral move, all these kind of things you have to decide for yourself. But the main thing is that you become a real living, breathing human. This is what learning is all about. Yeah, right. Just do it like this is easier. You open. This is the movement that we also have in the Zhongfu where we go do this one, right? You remember that? So there you have it. I hope you really enjoyed this video and that it is of any use. My story about studying hopefully also can become your story about studying, and you have to start somewhere. If you partake in my research project, you will get a lot of different kind of theoretical and practical information which has to help you get more agile in your mind and in your body at the same time. And as a result of that, be more adaptable to your environment. Inspiration to do things comes from being fit and healthy, and working on your fitness and working on your health is very important. That is not in a mechanical fashion, because what you see most people is they go to the gym and learn things in a mechanical fashion, and as a result of that they actually harden their body. They become a hard body, so to say, as Brett Easton Ellis used to say in his books about women. But this is what you want to avoid. You want to make sure that your life is going to be soft, gentle, loving, and caring. And this is where you are really in the top of your health. So join our program. And now I'm at this point in my research. I'm going to really start getting more conscious and looking for people to join and to participate. And you find below how to do that and how to sponsor. So thank you.